The session is about nickel ore liquefaction. I'm going to go through a quick introduction on the topic. The two incidents that our company was involved in the response to a liquefaction event. A couple of techniques, difficulties in remote location, because in most of the cases we have to do it in the most remote of locations. Determining how to discharge the cargo, avoiding environmental damage, and securing a place of refuge. Now, as part of the introduction, we have to focus first of all on the main exporters of nickel ore, although there have been incidents with other iron ore cargoes. We are focusing on nickel ore because nickel ore is the cargo that T&T Salvage responded on. Others may have experience in other cargoes as well. So focus on Philippines, mostly Indonesia, places of export, and directed into China. This is a map I managed to get from all over the world. But we are going to be focusing mainly in the Asia trade. Intercargo, the background, we had a couple of cases. We had almost 11 vessels between 10 years period, 102 seafarers lost, the Harita bauxite, the Trans-Summer, one of the most significant ones. There's been codes and guidelines. These are the organizations that we had to deal with because all the response, it has to be monitored and approved by flag state, by class, and basically the two different ships, two different classes. Now, going into the incidents, the first one was a Handymax, a Supramax bulk carrier, loaded unprocessed nickel ore in bulk, heavy weather, recipe for disaster, and you have your liquefaction close to a beach in Philippines. The response we had to engage towards. The captain issued an order to abandon the ship. The crew was rescued by tug, and subsequently the vessel drifted aground at the coast of Candon, and that was mainly the reason that she was saved. We had to respond as a salvo. We had to refloat the vessel and then move some of the cargo, reallocate some of the cargo in order to move to a port of refuge. That is the vessel and the condition that we found the vessel when we approached by the tug, and a couple of days later when she ran aground in Candon. The next case in 2016, I was involved in this one. It was liquefaction on the way from the Philippines again to Townsville, Australia, and they did encounter some moderate weather, not so bad. It's not heavy, but the captain suspected that was something wrong with the cargo. He did an inspection in cargo port in hold number 1, and he noticed the liquefaction effect. This one had already found this vessel had already found a port of refuge in Lae, in Papua New Guinea. Not the best place to have holidays. I mean, I had to spend 68 days there, and I was made aware that they had found signs of cannibalism in the mountains, and I'm pretty chubby, you know. That was a good. So we had to prepare an operation there, a discharge operation with barges, as we usually do. You never find a salvo that berths a ship. The salvos are always going for the barges. It makes more money. Now, the technique, this is basically the holds condition. I'm not going to discuss the issues. I'm just going through the photographs. Hold number 1, cargo liquefied and shifted. Hold number 2, same condition. 3 as well. You notice that you get most of the effect in the closest to the bow of the vessel because that's where it gets most of the weather. And 3, 4, and 5 in a more stable condition. Holds number 1, 2, and 3 created the list that you saw earlier in the photos. The lab tests after, and some information on the specifications that is significant. If you look at the moisture test levels before loading and after, it's significantly different. I'm not going to discuss what prevention the owners should have taken or the crew. You know all that. As salvors, we are focusing on the response. We are focusing on, I mean, after the incident happens, how we're going to give you a solution, how we're going to get your vessel back to their trading position. So naval architects, they worked on the plan, the best solution that they could come with so that we can manage to get the vessel in a state of transport was to shift the cargo from homogeneous to alternative loading. And after the operation, you could see that cargoes 1, 3, and 5 were loaded almost 83%, 85%, leaving some of the cargoes empty. 2 reasons for that. One reason, if you see the rest of the holds, and number 5, 84%, and the loading scenarios from the one to the other. The reason for that is basically 2 reasons. One reason was because we wanted to minimize the risk from the whole of the vessel to just the 3 holds that we could load it alternatively. And on top of that, in the second response that we had to make in Papua New Guinea, we took the vessel out, so and dumped the cargo at sea. So we had our pumps, which are, you know, the capacity is for molasses and fuel oil. I mean, it was easy for us to extract as much water as we could in case of emergency, although the whole plan, I have to make it clear, the whole plan was approved in the best weather conditions. So we never took any risk of using our resources. Now, remote locations. I'll go fast. This is our salvage master in Papua New Guinea. You couldn't walk anywhere without security. You could get mugged. Difficult locations, areas that using the local resources was always a challenge. Our safety officer instructed all of the local barge people to use safety helmets and safety vests. He forgot to tell them about the boots. And the guy has already had an accident. Remote locations, again, when we did the dumping of the cargo in the second operation, where we did the dumping at sea, under IMO guidance and everything, everything had to be boarded by tug in the middle of the ocean. Now, where to discharge the cargo? This is the operation in Papua New Guinea. We got permission to dump the cargo at the new construction port. We got the national government's permits, certificates, everything. The problem was that the locals, the landlords in Papua New Guinea, they wouldn't approve. And we had all sorts of issues. We even had armed guards protecting the area because they can even drop a dead body and say that it happened because of nickel. We tried that, and then we took the ship out from Lae in Papua New Guinea, up north, in a specific area that is not interrupting fisheries. It's a big tuna area, tuna fishing area on location. So we had to take certain approvals from the flag state, the IMO, and the local Papua New Guinea, and the process was, as easy as doing an operation on a barge. It was just going back to the sea. That is a solution to the problem. Yeah, so all the certification was there from the local, from the national governments and from the Papua New Guinea authorities, environmental, you name it, any company that when you do a salvage operation or when you do an operation like this, everybody will show up. Every agency will show up and ask you for money. So that's the unfortunate event. And then it's the sea dumping that the government, the independent state had also to approve. Place of refuge. Like I said, most of the transportation is in the area between Philippines, China. Some cargoes go to Australia. It's a difficult area. It's a difficult part to find port of refuge. Most of the governments in these areas are a little bit dodgy. Not Australia, of course, but the rest of the world. So as a conclusion, we had to take some steps to do an alternative loading on the vessel, and we managed to get some permits to do dumping over the cargo at sea. It's not the most orthodox operations, but at least it is according to the rules, and we gave a solution to the owner who wanted his vessel back to their trading condition.